Good morning, grade 7. This is our second video in our series on the residential school system here in Canada. Last video we talked about the apology and what apologies mean and how apologies can be sincere or not sincere. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about the video that we watched in class last time called Where Are the Children? And today we're going to do something a little bit different. Today, first of all, in your flip grid, you're going to see a link to a picture book, and you're going to say, Mrs. McNibb, a picture book? We're in grade 7, we don't read picture books anymore, maybe graphic novels, but not picture books. But this is a picture book called a postmodern picture book, and postmodern picture books often deal with themes that are too complex and not understandable to younger children, and the support of the quality pictures in these often help us to interact with historical events and themes in a better way. So the one I'm going to show you today is called The Rabbits, and there'll be a reading that you can follow along with. It'll only take a few minutes. There's often very sparse text in postmodern picture books, but the illustrations are wonderful. And this one is called The Rabbits, and this is the first page of The Rabbits. It's written by John Marston and illustrated by Sean Tan. And I've put a link to an author study by Sean Tan that goes through 5 of his books and some readings from those books. And you're welcome to look at that, and I would like you to listen to the reading of The Rabbits. So there's that. There'll also be a link to the video, Where Are the Children? If you would like to listen to that again, it will help you to respond in your video this week to what I'm going to do this week in the video. So what I'm going to do is something a little bit different. So I've asked you to look at The Rabbits by John Marston and Sean Tan, to view the video Where Are the Children again, if you can. And I'm going to do a little bit of reading from Indian Horse. And if you remember, I hope you do, that I handed these out at the end of the last class, and I asked you to read the first 2 chapters, which was only 7 pages. And this is written by a Canadian, a First Nations man who passed away not too long ago in 2017. His name was Richard Wagamese. And he's written many, many excellent books, and this is one of them, and this is Indian Horse. And I'm going to read you chapter 3, which is only 4 pages long, and then we're going to talk about what the response I would like you to make in your video this week. So if you want to stop the video for a moment and go grab your novel and follow along, you can, and I'll meet you back here in a moment. All right, let's go. So this is chapter 3 of Indian Horse. And here we are. All that I knew of Indian died in the winter of 1961 when I was 8 years old. My grandmother Naomi was very old then. She was the matriarch of the small band of people I was born to. We still lived a bush life at that time. We had little contact with anyone besides the Xanagush at the northern store in Menaki, where we took our furs and berries, or the odd group of wandering Indians who stumbled across our camps. If there ever was a sign of an approaching stranger, our grandmother hurried my brother Benjamin and me off into the bush. We would stay there until the stranger departed, even if that took a day or so. There was a specter in our camp. We could see the shadow of this dark being in the lines of our mother's face. She would sometimes sit huddled close to the fire, clenching and unclenching her fists, her eyes dark moons in the firelight. She never spoke at times like that, never could be comforted. I'd walk to her and take her hand, but she didn't notice me. It was as if she was under the influence of a potent medicine no shaman had the power to break. The specter lived in the other adults too, my father and my aunt and my uncle, but its most chilling presence was in my mother. The school, she would whisper then, the school. It was the school that Naomi hid us from. It was the school that had turned my mother so far inward she sometimes ceased to exist in the outside world. Naomi had seen the adults of our camp taken away as children. She'd seen them return bearing a sorrow that could not be reached. And when my grandfather died, she took her family back to the land, hoping that an Ojibwe life might heal them, ease their pain. Besides my brother, I had a sister that I never met. Her name was Rachel. Then the year before I was born, she disappeared. She was 6. The Xanagush came from across the water, our grandmother told Benjamin and me one time when we were hidden in the trees. It was the end of August, and we were coming back to the river from the summer camp near One Man Lake. Our canoes were full of berries. We planned to go to Menaki to sell them and buy supplies for the winter. We were tired. I never thought they'd come in the dawn, me. I always thought the Xanagush slept like fat old bears. But they walked into our camp, and I pulled my robe up over Benjamin, who was so small, and hid him from their view. But they found Rachel, and they took her away in their boat. I stood on the rocks and watched them. They had a boat with a motor, and when they rounded the bend in the river, I thought, how fast things can vanish from our view. Her screams hung in the air like smoke from a green fire, but even they finally vanished, and all that was left was the wake from the boat slapping at the rocks of my feet. That's all I carry of her now, the wet slap of water on the rocks. Every time I hear it, I remember the dawn the white men came and stole Rachel from us. So we hid from the white men. Benjamin and I developed the quick ears of bush people. When we detected the drone of an engine, we knew to run. We'd grab the old lady's hand and scuttle into the trees and find a place to secret ourselves away until we knew for certain that there was no danger. I learned English at the same time I learned Ojibwe. My father taught me to read from Xanagush books, taught me to form the sounds and letters built with the tip of his finger as my guide. They felt hard, those white man words, sharp and pointed on my tongue. Old Naomi fought against it, trying to throw the books in the fire. They come in different ways, them, the Xanagush, she said. Their talk and their stories can sneak you away as quick as their boats. So I grew up afraid of the white man. As it turned out, I had reason to be. In 1957, when I was 4, they got my brother Benjamin. The old lady and I were gathering roots in a glade of the trees that stood against the river. The men and my brother were at the foot of a rapid setting gill nets. The airplane came out of the west, and we did not hear it soon enough. Naomi and I made it to a cliff in the rocks, but the men and my brother had nowhere to go. The plane cut them off, and we crawled up out of the crevice in the rocks and watched as those men from the plane lowered a canoe and forced my family's canoe to the opposite shore. They had guns, those Xanagush. I think that if they hadn't, my brother and my uncle would have fought them off and we would have run into the back country. But they took my brother at gunpoint and pushed him up into the plain. My mother collapsed on the long flat rock that reached out into the river at our camp. No one could move her. She lay there for days, and it was only the chill of the first autumn rains that got her up on her feet and back to the fire. She was lost to me then. I could see that. She was gaunt and drained from days of weeping, a tent of skin over her bones. When Benjamin disappeared, he carried a part of her away with him, and there was nothing anyone could do to fill it. My father tried. He never left her side for weeks. But now that she had lost 2 children, she would not speak anything except the school. The words like a bruise in the air. So he left her, and he and my uncle paddled off down the river to sell the berries. When they returned, they brought the white men with them in brown bottles. Spirits, Naomi called them, bad spirits. Those spirits made the grown-ups move in strange, jerky ways, and their talk was twisted. I fell asleep to evil laughter. Sometimes my mother lurched to her feet and danced around the fire, and the shadow she threw against the side of the tent was like the outline of a skeleton. I clutched my robe tight to my throat, lay across the space my brother once filled, and waited for sleep to claim me. On clear nights, the old woman and I would sit in the rocks by the edge of the river. The stars pinwheeled above us, and we would hear wolves calling to each other. Naomi told me stories of the old days, told me stories about my grandfather and the medicine ways he carried. Good medicine, powerful Ojibwe medicine. The river wound serpentine, radiant in the light of the northern moon. In its curling wash, I sometimes thought I could hear songs sung in Ojibwe, honor songs, raising me above the hurt of my brother's absence. That voice sustained me, as did the firm, warm hand of Naomi on the thin blade of my shoulder. So that's chapter 3 of our book, Indian Horse. So this week I'd like you to do a video response, and again you're going to have 5 minutes, and there's sticky notes there that you can use to write notes so you remember what you want to say. You can add stickers, you can use the whiteboard, the blackboard, anything that's in the video, and there's lots of resources you can use there. You can make it as a spoken voice, as a poem, a dance, song, art, visual art, whatever you'd like to do for your response. You can post that on your video. So our response this week will be, I would like you to reflect on how these multimodal literacies that we've spoken about today and that you'll see in the videos, how do they influence each other, and how do they connect with each other, and how do they connect with the residential schools? And I'd also like you to really think about what the communities must have looked like now that the students were gone, that the children were gone, and how that community must have felt, and how the parents and the grandparents and the aunts and uncles must have felt. So I'll leave you with that. Remember to read ahead if you can with Indian Horse. It's a great book, and I look forward to seeing your videos. Take advantage of all the different literacies and all the different resources I put on the Flipgrid, and I will see you in class and see you on the next video. Thank you.